Let's be honest, when it comes to intimacy, most men have one question quietly sitting in the back of their mind. What size do women actually prefer? It's the question that has fueled comparison, insecurity, and curiosity for generations. But here's the truth: the answer isn't what you think. And once you understand it, it will completely change the way you see yourself, your body, and the way you connect with women. You see, we've been taught to focus on the wrong thing. Society, media, and ego have made size the headline when in reality, what women truly crave goes far beyond the physical. It's not just about what you bring, it's about how you show up. Because the men who truly stay on a woman's mind aren't the ones with the biggest measurements, but the ones who bring confidence, awareness, and emotional depth into every touch, every word, and every moment. This isn't a conversation about comparison. It's about understanding what actually creates attraction and pleasure on a biological, emotional, and psychological level. And once you hear the truth, you'll realize that the most powerful qualities a man can have nothing to do with size. They have everything to do with presence, rhythm, and connection. So stay with me until the end of this video because what you're about to learn might just free you from years of false beliefs. It will not only shift how you see intimacy, it will change how you see yourself. This is about confidence, chemistry, and the science of what women actually desire. And once you understand that, you'll never question your worth again. The idea that bigger is better has been one of the most misleading messages ever taught to men about intimacy. It feeds insecurity, comparison, and performance anxiety, making men question their worth over something that in reality matters far less than they think. What most people never talk about is that attraction and pleasure don't depend on size, they depend on connection. The way a man makes a woman feel, both emotionally and physically, has far greater influence over her satisfaction than any numerical measurement ever could. The myth of size overshadows the truth that women remember energy, not inches. They remember the moments when they felt desired, understood, and safe enough to open up, both emotionally and sensually. When a man focuses too much on his physical size, he forgets the real purpose of intimacy: communication, presence, and emotional resonance. The body follows the mind. When a woman feels emotionally secure, her body responds more deeply. The sensations become stronger, her arousal heightens, and the experience transforms from something mechanical into something magnetic. Connection activates chemistry, and chemistry amplifies pleasure far beyond physical limits. In fact, studies and real world experiences show that the majority of women care more about emotional depth, confidence, and the ability to make them feel cherished than about how large or long their partner is. This is where presence comes in, the art of being fully engaged. When a man is attuned to her reactions, her breathing, her rhythm, and her energy, he naturally creates a deeper, more satisfying connection. It's not about technique alone, but about attentiveness. That attentiveness shows care, and care builds trust. When she feels that her partner is tuned into her needs instead of his own insecurities, she relaxes, and in that relaxation, her pleasure expands. That's something no measurement can replicate. The myth of size collapses in the face of true emotional and physical attunement. Pleasure is a language, and connection is the grammar that makes it fluent. When two people trust each other, when they listen with their bodies and respond with empathy, every touch becomes more meaningful. That's why smaller gestures, a look, a whisper, a pause, can feel more powerful than any physical act done without emotional alignment. Intimacy is not about how much you have to offer, but how you offer it. The energy you bring to that space, your ability to create warmth, curiosity, and playfulness is what makes her think about you long after the moment has passed. In the end, what a woman remembers is not the shape or size of the encounter, but the way it made her feel: desired, understood, and deeply connected. The men who understand this truth never compete on physical attributes because they know real satisfaction comes from connection, not comparison. They replace insecurity with awareness, pressure with patience, and ego with empathy. And when they do, they discover the truth that's been hidden beneath generations of false ideas, that the most powerful experience isn't found in size, but in the depth of connection shared between two people who truly see each other. Most men are never taught how a woman's body truly works. They grow up hearing exaggerated stories or watching unrealistic portrayals of intimacy that focus on size, speed, or stamina, but almost never on understanding. The reality is that women's anatomy is designed for sensitivity, not depth. Most of the sensory nerves that contribute to pleasure are concentrated in the outer third of the vaginal canal, especially around the clitoral network, which extends internally like a delicate web connecting to the G spot, labia, and surrounding tissues. This means that the areas that respond most powerfully to stimulation are much closer to the surface than most people realize. The deeper parts of the vagina have far fewer nerve endings, which explains why, for many women, length alone provides little to no added pleasure. The clitoris itself is far more complex than a small external point. It's an internal structure with more than 8,000 nerve endings, all designed for pleasure. When a man understands that, he stops focusing on what he lacks and starts focusing on what truly matters: technique, awareness, and timing. Pleasure is not about force, but finesse. The most satisfying experiences for women come when their bodies are treated with patience, curiosity, and rhythm that matches their natural flow. This kind of attention allows her body to build anticipation and release in waves, creating much deeper connection and satisfaction. The other essential factor is emotional arousal. For women, physical pleasure is deeply tied to how safe and emotionally connected they feel. When she feels comfortable and emotionally engaged, her body produces more lubrication, blood flow increases to the pelvic area, and the sensitivity of those nerve endings heightens. That's why foreplay, trust, and emotional presence aren't optional. They are the foundation for physical pleasure. A woman's arousal is as much psychological as it is physical, which is why understanding her anatomy also means understanding her emotions. When men take the time to learn this, to understand the design of her body and the language of her arousal, they shift from performance to partnership. They become explorers rather than performers. Instead of chasing an outcome, they become attuned to her breathing, her movements, her subtle cues. That awareness turns intimacy into a shared experience, not a performance of control. This creates a kind of chemistry that size could never replicate, a deeper harmony between two people where both feel seen, desired, and in sync. When a man knows how to stimulate her based on her anatomy and emotional needs, he begins to unlock pleasure in ways that feel more meaningful and lasting. It's no longer about what's visible, but about what's felt. Understanding her body isn't just a technical skill, it's an act of respect, curiosity, and care. It's what separates mechanical encounters from moments of true connection. The most powerful lovers are not the ones who rely on what nature gave them, but the ones who learned how to use it wisely. When a man reaches that level of awareness, he doesn't need to prove his worth. He embodies it through how he makes her feel. Confidence is one of the most powerful forms of attraction, yet it's often misunderstood. Many men confuse confidence with arrogance or dominance, but true confidence is quiet, steady, and deeply rooted in self awareness. It comes from a place of knowing who you are, what you value, and what you bring into a relationship beyond the physical. When a man carries this type of confidence, it radiates through his presence. He doesn't chase validation because he already understands his worth. And when a woman feels that energy, it instantly changes how she perceives him. He becomes someone she can trust, someone who commands attention without demanding it. Confidence that's rooted in purpose goes beyond appearances. It shows up in how a man handles challenges, how he listens, how he leads with calm energy instead of ego. A woman can sense when a man is comfortable in his own skin. It's in his body language, the way he holds eye contact, the patience in his tone, and the security in his silence. This type of man doesn't rush to impress or overcompensate. He allows his actions to speak for him. And that creates an aura of stability that feels both masculine and magnetic. Women are drawn to that balance because it signals emotional safety and maturity, two of the most important traits for long term attraction. In intimacy, confidence translates into presence. A man who trusts himself doesn't perform, he connects. He isn't focused on whether he's doing it right, but whether he's attuned to his partner. This presence allows her to relax, which amplifies her pleasure. It creates a space where both can experience desire without pressure. That's something physical size alone could never accomplish. Because the truth is, a woman's arousal doesn't depend on measurement, it depends on the emotional atmosphere you create. When she feels your focus, your patience, and your calm, her body naturally responds. Confidence quiets anxiety, and in that calm, both partners experience more connection and pleasure. Purpose also plays a major role in attraction. A man who wakes up each day with direction and drive emits a natural strength. His energy becomes contagious because it's fueled by meaning. He's not searching for someone to complete him. He's already fulfilled within himself. That independence is what draws a woman in because it tells her he isn't needy or lost. He's choosing to share his energy, not drain hers. That's the kind of energy that lingers long after an encounter, the kind that makes a woman think about a man not because of what he looks like, but because of how he made her feel in his presence. Confidence and purpose are the true equalizers. They erase insecurity and comparison. They remind both men and women that attraction starts in the mind, not the mirror. When a man embraces who he is, flaws, strengths, and all, he becomes unforgettable. His presence becomes more powerful than any physical feature because what she remembers isn't how he looked, but how safe, seen, and desired she felt when she was with him. Emotional intelligence is one of the most underrated elements of attraction, yet it's the very quality that determines whether a woman feels deeply connected or emotionally distant from a man. Many men believe that attraction is purely physical, but for women, the mind and emotions are inseparable from desire. A woman may be drawn to someone's looks or voice, but what makes her think about him nonstop is how he understands her, how he listens, responds, and communicates without judgment. Emotional intelligence is not about saying the perfect words, it's about creating emotional safety through presence, empathy, and awareness. When a man listens not just to reply, but to understand, he enters a deeper dimension of intimacy. Women feel this difference immediately. They sense when a man is truly paying attention to her tone, her eyes, her pauses, the emotion behind her words. That level of awareness makes her feel seen in a world where most people only want to be heard. It's not grand gestures that win her heart, it's the simple act of being emotionally available in moments that matter. When she feels understood, her body relaxes, her trust grows, and her attraction deepens. Because for a woman, emotional connection is foreplay for the mind. It creates the spark that fuels both desire and devotion. Men who cultivate emotional intelligence become more magnetic without even trying. They can sense shifts in energy, know when to speak and when to stay silent, when to comfort and when to challenge. This awareness builds respect, which in turn builds desire. A woman feels emotionally safe with a man who can hold space for her, not fix her problems, not control the situation, but simply be there. That strength of presence tells her she can be fully herself without fear of being dismissed or misunderstood. And that emotional security becomes the foundation for physical openness. Science supports this dynamic as well. Emotional connection increases oxytocin, the bonding hormone, which enhances trust, relaxation, and physical intimacy. When a man communicates with empathy, he activates her sense of safety, allowing her body to respond more fully to touch and closeness. This is why emotional intelligence isn't just psychological, it's physiological. It creates a bridge between the mind and body, allowing attraction to grow naturally and deeply. A man who learns this balance no longer needs to rely on external validation or tricks to maintain a woman's interest. He understands that emotional awareness is his greatest tool. It's what separates temporary attention from lasting connection. Every word, every glance, every small act of understanding becomes part of the rhythm that keeps her thinking about him. Not because he's trying to impress her, but because he makes her feel emotionally alive in his presence. That kind of experience is rare, and the human mind always craves what feels rare. Emotional intelligence is what transforms attraction into connection and connection into intimacy. A woman doesn't stay drawn to a man because of how he looks or what he has, but because of how he makes her feel. When a man can meet her emotionally while staying grounded in his own strength, he becomes unforgettable. He represents both comfort and depth, and that is the combination that leaves an imprint on her heart and mind long after he's gone. The idea of the perfect size has always been wrapped in misconception, comparison, and unnecessary pressure. But when you really understand female psychology and emotional intimacy, you realize that what women actually consider perfect is something far deeper and more complex than a physical measurement. For most women, the true sense of fulfillment doesn't come from size, but from compatibility. The feeling that her partner knows how to move with her, listen to her, and make her feel emotionally and physically in sync. It's about rhythm, energy, and trust. The human body is sensitive, yes, but the mind and emotions guide the experience. A woman doesn't remember numbers, she remembers how she felt, whether she felt desired, comfortable, understood, and connected. Compatibility is the invisible thread that ties pleasure to emotion. When two people's bodies fit naturally, not just physically, but energetically, the experience becomes effortless and immersive. This harmony can only exist when both partners are relaxed, confident, and present. A man who feels secure in himself, who doesn't measure his worth by comparison, brings a kind of energy that instantly calms and excites her at the same time. That inner confidence allows her to let go, to open up, to fully experience the connection. When both partners feel that level of mutual trust, every touch feels amplified. Confidence plays a massive role because it shapes the emotional atmosphere between two people. A man who worries about whether he is enough subconsciously transmits insecurity, and insecurity disrupts connection. But when a man accepts himself, his strengths, his body, his presence, he stops performing and starts connecting. That shift changes everything. He moves with patience, not pressure. He listens to her breathing, responds to her cues, and becomes more attuned to her needs. It's that emotional and physical communication that turns an ordinary experience into something unforgettable. The perfect size becomes the perfect fit, not measured by length or width, but by emotional attunement and physical harmony. What women find irresistible is not perfection, but confidence combined with empathy. When she feels both safe and stimulated, her mind associates that man with comfort and excitement, a combination that keeps her thinking about him long after the moment ends. Her memory doesn't replay what she saw, it replays what she felt. The perfect size, in truth, is the experience that makes her feel whole, connected, and alive. When a man embraces this understanding, he no longer competes with myths or comparisons. He realizes that the power of intimacy lies in presence, patience, and partnership. He learns that connection is not about dominating, but about harmonizing, finding a rhythm where both partners feel seen and satisfied. That's what every woman craves, whether she's aware of it or not. It's never been about numbers. It's about connection, compatibility, and confidence, the true measures of attraction that leave a lasting emotional imprint. When those elements come together, she doesn't think about size, she thinks about you. What women actually desire has far less to do with what most men have been taught to focus on. The truth is, pleasure, attraction, and emotional connection are not determined by size, shape, or performance. They're created through confidence, understanding, and communication. The men who truly stand out are not the ones who chase perfection, but the ones who show presence, patience, and authenticity. A woman doesn't remember measurements, she remembers how you made her feel safe, desired, understood, and completely seen. That's what lingers in her heart, and that's what keeps her thinking about you long after the moment has passed. If there's one thing to take away from this, it's that intimacy is an experience of energy, not ego. When you let go of insecurity and approach your partner with curiosity and confidence, you unlock a level of connection that no physical feature can compete with. The perfect size has always been a myth, but the perfect connection is something every man can create through emotional intelligence, respect, and genuine passion. So, to every man watching this, remember you are already enough. Your worth doesn't need to be measured or compared. What makes you unforgettable is not what you have, but how you give your attention, your care, your energy, and your willingness to truly connect. That's what makes you powerful, attractive, and timeless in a woman's eyes. Thank you for taking the time to learn, to reflect, and to grow. Conversations like this matter because they bridge the gap between misunderstanding and true intimacy. Keep showing up with confidence, keep learning about connection, and keep becoming the kind of man who inspires trust and desire through presence and heart. Wishing you balance, passion, and meaningful connections in every part of your life. Take care of yourself. And as always, thank you for being here and good luck on your journey toward deeper confidence and authentic connection.